We got another video. This one is called His Ex got an online boyfriend, so he blew up the house. Excuse me. 11 strange and dark cases.
Alright everybody, you know what time it is. It's time for another Strange and Dark Cases compilation. This is where I take a bunch of shorter cases that I come across while researching every month and compile them all into one big video. With that out of the way, let's get right into it. His new boyfriend's house. A lot of people out there will kind of lose their mind when they find out that their ex is dating someone new. Most of them don't tend to act on it in any way, though. The man in this story was pretty different, as he decided to take it to the extreme. Harrison Jones wasn't really doing too well in his life. He was 22, living with his parents despite not wanting to, not in school, and couldn't hold a job. His most recent job was at McDonald's, but that had only been for a few months. He did have a girlfriend, though. That is, until she broke up with him. After the two broke up, it seems that they kept in contact to an extent. This is when Harrison learned that not only was she dating someone new online, but she was planning to go and meet him at his home in Pennsylvania. That was when all hell broke loose. Somehow Harrison learned where this new boyfriend lived. He decided that he would prevent his ex-girlfriend from meeting this man at all costs. So he hopped into his car and drove over 700 miles for the next 12 hours straight to the man's house. Surveillance footage from a nearby home in the neighborhood showed Harrison's car, a black sedan, passing the home in the early hours of the morning. Harrison parked the car and exited, walking towards the new boyfriend's home. At roughly 5 a.m., the boyfriend's home erupted into flames. After about 15 minutes, Harrison was seen running back to his car as the smoke from the burning home trailed behind him. Then a large explosion took place just as he peeled out in his car and sped off. The 6 adults living in the home were able to flee, but not without injury, with some of them being hurt when they had to jump from the second-story windows. Sadly, the 2 family dogs did not survive the fire. Firefighters soon arrived at the home, realizing quickly that the fire appeared to have been set deliberately. They began combing through all of the security camera footage they could find from nearby homes in order to find out who had started it. While it is unclear what caused the fire to spread so quickly, the detectives did manage to find Harrison's sedan in the footage. They used the cameras from some local city intersections to find his license plate afterwards, tracing the car back to a man named Brian in Michigan, a guy who lived in the same house as Harrison. Tracking the car, they were able to find out that it had driven back to Michigan after the arson as well. Talking to the victims in the arson, the police learned that one of them had plans to meet with a woman from Michigan later that week. He said that they had gotten into a relationship online and that she was going to visit him for the first time. Things were starting to come together. It wasn't long before the police spoke to the woman and found out that Harrison Jones was her ex-boyfriend. Knowing that, it wasn't really hard for the authorities to get a search warrant for his vehicle back home. Still inside, they found a lock-picking device, a cell phone, and a computer. When they confronted Harrison with all of the evidence, they couldn't help but notice that he had suffered some burns to his arms recently. It was becoming abundantly clear that this was their guy. The police arrested Harrison and charged him on 13 counts in total, those being for arson, risking catastrophe, and attempted criminal homicide. The police didn't want to release the identities of the victims or describe how extensive their injuries were, but they did receive hospital care. The home was left completely destroyed.
Wait, did they say what he's charged with?
Police didn't want to release the identities of arson, risking catastrophe, and attempted criminal homicide. The police didn't want to release the
Criminal homicide. Damn. I ain't gonna lie, you just gotta let that stuff go, gang. Like, bro. You can't hold a job. Your girlfriend, like, bro, he's probably thought that he ain't have nothing to live for. 22, he still got a lot of life to live, though. 22, he still got a lot of life to live, but I guess he just didn't care no more. He lost his girl, and now he don't want nobody else to have her. Like, you gotta just let them go, gang. You just gotta let it go. I ain't gonna lie. Driving 700 miles to go blow up, yo. They wasn't even together, so blowing up like some guy that she met online is insane. Blowing up some guy house that she didn't even meet him yet, and you going over there to blow up his house?
identities of the victims or described. And now, eyeball-eating murderer granted release from jail. It's not very often that we hear about a murderous cannibal these days, and it's very less often that we hear about one walking free after what they did. This is one of those rare cases. Back in mid-December of 2011, a 34-year-old man named Tyree Smith showed up to his family's home, covered in blood, saying that he had just used a hatchet to kill a homeless man. He then surprised his family even more by plainly telling them that he had eaten the man's eye and some of his brain and washed it down with some sake. After he made that confession, he simply left and hopped on a Greyhound bus for Lynn Haven, Florida. He told his family that he was going to stay with a female friend and left it at that. Needless to say, the police were informed about this confession, but they didn't really have much to go on. In fact, they didn't even have an unsolved murder case in the area, nor did they have a body. They didn't even know if he was telling the truth. That is, until about a month later in January. The police came to find the victim, a man named Angel Gonzalez, much in the condition that Tyree had described, in the back of a vacant apartment in Bridgeport, Connecticut. The police were able to track Tyree down to this friend's house where he was staying and arrest him on the spot. The woman he was staying with claimed to have zero knowledge of anything that had happened. When it came time to his trial, Tyree was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Instead, he was ordered to be confined to the Whiting Forensic Hospital in Middletown, Connecticut for 60 years. However, that would only last a little over 10 years in the end. Fast forward to February 21st, 2025. After being told he would be in the hospital for likely the rest of his life, Tyree was actually granted conditional release. The decision was made after the board reviewed his case and deemed that he was likely no longer a threat. They said that he has demonstrated long-term stability, has stuck with all of his treatments, and has been consistent with following the doctor's orders. He was told to remain under structured supervision and continue with his mental health care. First, he was to be placed on temporary leave status. Basically, this would let him start by receiving day passes to leave the hospital and get treatment in the outside community instead. For a while, it looks like he will stay overnight in the hospital and have weekly checkups. The board said, "Rehabilitation, not punishment, is the goal for individuals found not guilty by reason of insanity." However, no matter how the board felt, it didn't make the decision any less controversial to those looking in from the outside. Several politicians within the state said that the decision was both outrageous and mind-boggling. 4 state senators said in a statement, "His victim's family raised objections about his release. What about them? Where's the justice for them? This terrible decision puts public safety in jeopardy and is yet another terrible message to send to Connecticut violent crime victims and their families. This person should never be out. We are dumbfounded at this injustice. In what universe is this okay?" The family of the victim, Angel Gonzalez, has also been less than thrilled, and that's putting it lightly. They are speaking out to the public and news media, attempting to get the word out about the case and hopefully get Tyree locked up again. It seems that the board is content with their decision and has no plans to back down from it.
Oh, so they're just doubling down on the cannibal, eating eyeballs, eating brains, and then washing it down with some sake? Gang, why are they temporary? Like, are they overcrowded? I don't think it's overcrowded. I don't think the hospital is overcrowded. I think they would have just used that as one of their excuses to release him if that was the case. I don't think that was the case. He only served 10 years when he's supposed to be in there for 60 years. Basically the rest of his life. That's some crazy stuff.
And this one is, "Woman and baby die as doctor watches surgery tutorial on YouTube." It's not very often that cases from Africa pop up during these compilations, but when they do, they seem to be some of the weirdest ones out there, like the fake lawyer who ended up winning a bunch of cases, or that drug that was basically turning people into zombies. Well, here's another one to add to that list of oddities. This case started when a man in Nigeria, Onyekachi Eze, took his pregnant wife to the hospital in order to have their baby. He was told that his wife was in no condition to give birth and that they were going to have to perform a cesarean section in order to get the baby out. There was one problem, though. The surgeon on staff didn't seem to know how to perform that particular procedure. At the Lebechi Hospital in Owerri, Onyekachi said, "I carried my wife to the hospital when she was in labor, and the doctor said she needed to undergo an operation because she was bleeding. So the female doctor called another doctor to come and operate on her. Right in my presence, they were using their phones to watch a YouTube video on how to perform the surgery. Unfortunately, while the doctors watched the YouTube tutorial, his wife lost her life there in the hospital bed. Naturally, the man reported this incident to the police. They came right out to the facility and arrested the owner of the hospital right there. A video was even taken of the owner being taken into custody. According to the local news in the area, some nurses that had been on staff that day were also arrested in connection to the incident. More concerningly, though, the doctors who were actually attempting to perform the surgery that day had seen the writing on the wall and abandoned their jobs. Their current locations are unknown."
Well, god damn it. I'm not gonna say it's a third world country, but god damn it. That sucks. Like, imagine taking your wife to the hospital because she's pregnant, about to have your child, and they say that they have to perform a C-section, and they're on their phones watching a YouTube tutorial, and the nurses are right there along watching a YouTube tutorial with them. Like, what type of hospital is this? For all that, I could have done that at home.
And
what YouTube tutorial are they watching that performs a C-section and shows everything in graphic details? Like, they're only gonna show like models and stuff like that. Like, what YouTube videos were they watching where they actually showed a patient and them cutting her stomach and them taking out the baby and doing all that extra stuff? Like, what YouTube videos were they watching? They were just watching videos of like simulations. not actual in the field videos.
Teacher sleeps with special needs student, urges him to get a gun. Here we have the story of a woman with a really weird name who did a really weird thing. Imagine Ewer. Imagine was a paraprofessional, a teacher's assistant, who worked at an alternative school called Brady Exploration in Lakewood, Colorado. It has been said, almost immediately after taking the job at the school, she developed an unhealthy fascination with one of her students. While the student's identity hasn't been made clear, it was reported that he was 16 years old. School staff quickly grew uncomfortable when they realized how deep Imagine's favoritism with this boy actually went. When the boy hinted during a classroom writing assignment that he was in a relationship with an older woman, the staff put the pieces together pretty effortlessly and decided that it was time to report the whole thing to the police. The police started an investigation and found a whole mountain of evidence confirming that the two were indeed in some sort of relationship. Not only that, but Imagine had apparently introduced the kid to drugs and alcohol as well. One of the several drugs that she chose to provide him with was fentanyl. Digging deeper, the police found plenty of evidence of an ongoing sexual relationship as well. And, perhaps most oddly, they found that Imagine seemed to have provided the boy with a gun. They found that she had attempted to get him to bring the gun to their sexual encounters for one reason or another. And, even more concerningly, they discovered that she had been attempting to groom the boy into shooting one of her coworkers in the leg for her. Imagine was arrested, and, at her hearing, the boy's mother spoke out against her. She said that the betrayal she had performed as a teacher was nothing less than painful, saying that Imagine had preyed on her son. She said, she made him believe she genuinely cared for him, all while exploiting him for money and manipulated him into thinking he was the one. What makes this even more painful is that I trusted the defendant. Imagine, at first, pled not guilty to the charges against her, some of those being sexual assault on a child and contributing to the delinquency of a minor, both felonies. However, she later changed her mind and pled guilty. In exchange, one of the felonies and a few misdemeanors were dropped. Still, she's looking at least 10 years of sex offender probation. If she fails her treatment program, she may be on it for life. Imagine did apologize to the boy's family in court, but seemingly not to him. She said simply, "I'm really sorry. This will never happen again." Currently, there are no required qualifications for paraprofessionals or teaching assistants in the state of Colorado, but this has forced some people to rethink whether or not that's really in the best interest of kids. While an associate's degree is recommended and competency assessments are usually performed, they don't seem to have done the trick at weeding out the bad applicants in this case, given that Imagine went after this student almost immediately after being hired. Given that Imagine has also worked as a school nurse in the past, this has brought people to question whether or not this is really the first time she's done anything like this.
Probably not. And she showed no remorse at all. She said, "I'm sorry, this happened, and it will never happen again." No remorse or anything like that. And these the people that we gotta walk by in society, drive by on the highway and on the road, and interact in the public. These are people that we gotta interact with. God damn it. She over here talking about something. She brought the boy, a special needs child, a gun and was grooming him to shoot her co-worker. Type of psychotic stuff is she on? She the one that needs to go to the hospital. No, not the hospital. The psych ward. In a straitjacket. Because she's special too. She special needs too.
Here is a doozy. Florida man arrested for having sex with a toy horse at Walmart. If you really thought that we were going to get through this whole compilation without a Florida man story, then you are sadly mistaken. While this case definitely isn't the most recent, I couldn't help but include it after reading about it in a different article lately, so enjoy some brony chaos. This story started at around 3 p.m. at a Walmart in Brooksville, a city about 50 miles away from Tampa, Florida. This was when a 19-year-old man, Sean Johnson, walked into the store with only the most nefarious of intentions. He had ponies on the mind, and he needed to get his fix. That afternoon, employees noticed that he was acting pretty suspicious while walking around the store. Sean made his way over to an aisle with some stuffed toys. There, his eyes locked onto the pony of his fantasies, one that has only been described as a brown, tan, and red stuffed horse from the clearance shelf in the garden department. Given that the police already described this incident pretty well, I'll use their words. They noted that he was caught on camera whipping it out and then proceeding to, as they put it, hump the stuffed horse utilizing short, fast movements. Then, they said he achieved an orgasm and ejaculated on the stuffed horse chest area and put the soiled stuffed horse on top of a bed and a bag comforter set, contaminating that property also. Then, in a burst of post-clop clarity, Sean realized what he had done and fled the store before Walmart security ever came into contact.
Yep, that post-nut clarity will get you. That's what post-nut clarity will do for you.
With him. However, after the security camera footage was presented to the police, they were able to track him down fairly quickly. The Brooksville police took him in and arrested him. During questioning, Sean fully admitted to what he had done. He told them, "I did unmentionables to a stuffed animal." The police apparently asked him what would have happened if someone had picked up the toy without knowing. So he added, "The officer put it into perspective of what would happen if somebody would pick it up and use it. I did not think of it the way he put it, and so I feel like I did a horrible act." Sean's actions led to the poor horse being thrown into the garbage, along with the comforter set he also contaminated. Sean was subsequently charged with both indecent exposure and criminal mischief. He was taken into the Hernando County Jail, but was later released after he posted his $1,500 bail.
Now, I'm from Florida, and I ain't gonna lie, most of the people who be doing crazy stuff like this is not from Florida. They're from Georgia, so he's a Georgia man, not a Florida man. He may have came down here and migrated to Florida, but he is not from Florida. He is from somewhere else. That's where most of these crazy stories come from. Crazy people coming down to Florida, they just label them Florida man. Like they just been here, born and raised here. No. Secondly, that man needs help. Like, you could have got like a toy from goddamn Amazon and goddamn did your thing, but no, you had to just go to Walmart. Indecent public exposure, and just decide because they got cameras all over Walmart. Like, did you not think that you was gonna get caught after you had your little post-nut clarity gang? Now, I know that post-nut clarity was something else, boy. I know he probably wanted to kill himself. Whoa. Doing it to a stuffed animal in Walmart? Come on now.
And now, woman gets naked at Waffle House and licks people. If you thought that maybe there were a little too many Florida men and that some Florida women might lighten things up a little, well, we've got a case like that too. In Pensacola, a 38-year-old woman with another interesting name, Freedom Ryder Zobrist, got into a bit of lewd chaos herself, this time at a Waffle House instead of a Walmart. Freedom showed up to the Waffle House at some point in the morning, causing a fuss. Due to her actions, an employee of the restaurant told her that she needed to leave, so she did. Things would have ended there, but Freedom returned later that day to cause another ruckus. She went up to the employee who asked her to leave and began to threaten him with violence. She said that she was going to go get a gun, shoot him in the face, and then shoot up the rest of the Waffle House as well. Following that, she scrambled out into the parking lot and tore off her pants and underwear, exposing herself completely to everyone in the area. She then started to dance around. The manager of the Waffle House then approached her, telling her that she needed to leave the area now. She responded by trying to grab his crotch. When he dodged, he stood there in shock for a moment. She took this moment to grab him by the side of the head and lick both sides of his face. When he yelled at her to leave, she responded by poking him in the chest with her finger and continuing to dance. All of the customers on scene said that they couldn't even leave because of where she was dancing in the parking lot, leaving them blocked in. There was one man who could leave to get to his car, but she made an intentional effort to come dance in front of him as well so that he couldn't leave. Well, the police were on scene pretty shortly after that. Freedom was arrested and charged with lewd and indecent exposure of sexual organs, as well as disorderly conduct, battery, and assault. She was hit with a bond of $1,000 per charge.
Like I said before, these are not people who are born and raised in Florida. She most likely migrated to Florida in her attempt to, I don't know, continue her craziness in Florida. But she is probably most likely not a Florida resident born and raised there. She's probably a snowbird from Connecticut or something like that. Secondly, she is on drugs. I don't know why the manager came outside and decided to like talk to her. If I seen like a woman just get butt booty naked and just start dancing and it looked like she got a couple missing teeth, or it looked like she's on some type of drugs, I would just call the police. I'm not even going outside. That's his fault for going outside and then getting licked up on and everything else. Like, you should have just stayed inside and called the police. Why are you going outside and trying to talk to her? She's obviously on some stuff. We don't know what stuff she's on. You don't know what stuff she's on. So you just going outside and telling her to move. Like, she's obviously on drugs. Just call the police. There's nothing that you can do.
And this one is, Florida woman throws first date brick through ex-husband's window. Maybe you were telling yourself that one Florida woman case is pretty good, but it would be really nice if we had another one too. In that case, let's get into this one. Here we have the story of a Florida woman named Sabrina Coyne, a 34-year-old woman who was pretty enamored with her ex-husband. She really couldn't get over the fact that he had left her, so she decided to try to win him back in a very strange, deranged sort of way. She showed up at her ex-husband's house one night at around 11 p.m. She banged on the door, demanding to see him, but he wouldn't let her in. She wanted to give him a gift, a commemorative brick with the date of their first date etched into it. Given that he wouldn't open the door, she decided that she would deliver the gift in a different way. Clutching the brick in her left hand while recording the act from her phone with the right, she pulled back and launched the brick through the man's window. A loud crash was heard throughout the neighborhood as the brick tore through the glass of a window in the back of the house. The police were on the scene shortly after, with Sabrina still on scene, waiting at the door just as she was before. Seeing this woman in a short dress and high heels at the door, still knocking loudly, the police asked her what she was doing. She told them that she lived at the house. When the police told her that they knew that wasn't true, she told them that she hadn't thrown any bricks. They also told her that, evidently, that was not true as well. The police were given security camera footage from the outside of the home that showed Sabrina clearly throwing the brick through the window after not being allowed inside. They arrested her on the spot, with her repeatedly mumbling, "I did not break the window. I did not break the window. Officer, I did not break the window." Sabrina is now facing charges of both criminal mischief and throwing a deadly missile into an occupied dwelling. It has now become much more evident to those around her why exactly her husband left her.
Wait, throwing a brick can be considered throwing a missile inside your house? That's crazy. And like I said before, she does not look like she's from Florida, born and raised. It looked like she's from Los Angeles, California, so she's not from Florida. You can't put that on Florida. Secondly, gang, I did go over this in another video of where she had written their first date on a brick, and she threw it at the man's window, and she went to jail. I did cover this video though before.
This one is, Chinese student burns inflatable girlfriend in shame, causes fire. Out in China, a student living in a dormitory was having fun with what has been called his girlfriend, an inflatable doll that, let's just say, he enjoyed spending some quality time with. Well, the good times were dampered when his roommate came home early. In a sheer embarrassment-induced panic, the student decided to do the only thing that he could think of, throw the doll into the hallway and light it on fire. At the Hefei University of Technology in central China, a fire soon broke out in the dormitory after the flames from the burning doll began to spread pretty rapidly. Needless to say, a lot of students in the area recorded the incident and uploaded their videos online. In the end, burning the doll to free himself from the embarrassment had the exact opposite effect that he intended, as it led to him being ridiculed all over both the Chinese side of the internet and even the Western side to an extent. While no casualties took place, the student did do a lot of damage to the dorm, damaged the school's reputation with the ridicule, and obviously committed a crime in the process. He was immediately reprimanded by the school. The school released a statement saying, "The inflatable doll was burned in the dormitory hallway. The security guard immediately contacted the fire department and the situation has been handled. There were no property losses or casualties, and we have already communicated with the student involved." An announcement was then made to the students of the dorm, telling them that, no matter what the situation, they shouldn't use flames to dispose of silicon. Instead, they were asked to simply put those items into the trash.
Bet he got ashamed and started setting the doll on fire. Like, come on now. Like, I see everybody just trying to have a fun time and a good time. But gang, throwing the doll in the hallway and then lighting it on fire, really? And wait, what? Wasn't he doing it unless how big is the dorm or how small is the dorm? Because unless they had their own room, nah, because dorms, you share a room. Oh yeah, you share a room. And there's no separate rooms. That means they must have been doing it for a while now to be bold enough to be doing it out in the open and not in the bathroom somewhere. Cause if he was worried about his roommate coming home or coming to the dorm earlier, he would have been in the bathroom, but he wasn't in the bathroom, so he probably been doing it for some time now. So he just been doing his thing with the doll for some time now, because he wasn't in the bathroom and he wasn't worried about his roommate coming home early.
And this one is, woman arrested for squishing buns. Another case in Asia, here we have one from Japan, although this is a case that's unique in being so mild that it's hard to believe that anything even came of it. Out in Fukuoka, a 40-year-old woman was engaging in a bit of mischief, if you can even call it that. She had a habit of going into different convenience stores, filling up the bread, and leaving without buying anything. This has actually become quite a problem in recent years that the police are getting pretty tired of. Not necessarily only with bread, but they also have what is called sushi terrorism, where people will go to sushi restaurants and either lick the sushi or the soy sauce bottles and leave them for other people to use. Maybe it's because of that this case became such a hot button. After employees at a local Lawson store began to notice that the bread had been repeatedly squashed over a period of a few weeks, they began to be on the lookout for their culprit. That's when the woman came in, grabbed a bag of 4 buns, squished them with her fingers, and just put them back. While the bag's wrapper was left intact, the employees still weren't happy. The owner recognized her as having done this in the past and demanded that she pay the roughly $1 for the bread, and she adamantly refused. Instead, she fled the store. So the owner then chased her out of the store and continued to demand that she pay up. But still, she refused after being chased for even about a mile. This led to the owner calling the police on her. The police came out and arrested the woman, charging her with criminal damage. She denied the allegations, saying that she didn't destroy the bread but simply tried to determine its firmness. The police told her that this was enough to constitute destruction of property.
Damn, that's a problem that they got over there in Japan. People be like going in the stores, squishing the bread and leaving. Nah, I ain't gonna lie, that'll piss me off. If I was a store owner, you just come in there, smushing the bread, then leaving. Nah, I'm gonna squish something else.
This one's a wild one. Man drives 130 miles an hour and gets a DUI just to see his cat faster. Here we've got one of the most bizarre reasons to end up with a DUI. In a case that occurred on an interstate highway in Connecticut, a man was driving well over 130 miles per hour. This was a 28-year-old man named Logan Mimorzafari who was having a bit of fun on a wild Saturday night. The police pulled him over, which goes without saying at that speed. They asked him why he needed to be driving so quickly. Logan responded, frankly, that he really wanted to go home and see his cat right now. Given the erratic driving and the odd response, the police looked for signs of drunkenness or impairment. It was only a few moments before they deduced that the man was most likely pretty drunk. They noticed the smell of alcohol, as well as glossy eyes, slurred speech, and a kind of blank expression. This led to a field sobriety test that proved that Logan was definitely pretty drunk. The police arrested him, hitting him with charges of driving under the influence and reckless driving. He was able to pay his $500 bond and was let go for the time being. It seems that he'll be back in court very soon, though. And this one is hand grenades found in Goodwill donation bin. Alright, given that the last few cases were pretty short, how about one more bonus case to kind of round things out? In a case that has been described as oddly common, some employees at a Goodwill store in Maine were pretty shocked to look into the donation box one morning and find something odd, a couple of hand grenades. Not only that, but there seemed to be some military-grade mortars in there as well. This led to the whole store being evacuated and the police being called. The bomb squad came out, swept the store, and investigated the whole situation. After around 1 p.m., the store was given the all-clear to open again. It was found that the hand grenades and mortars were not active. It seemed that someone had likely been collecting them as military antiques and for some reason, either intentionally or on accident, had donated them to the store. A spokesman for the store said, "Unfortunately, this is oddly common. Many New Englanders collect antique weapons in their homes. We ask that people do not donate weaponry. Even if they know it is antique and safe, our store employees do not, and we need to take the precautions we have today." This had actually happened about a year and a half prior in Wisconsin as well, when someone accidentally donated an actual live cluster bomb to a Goodwill location there as well. That particular incident led to the evacuation of an entire city block as well as a full-scale investigation.
Nah, niggas donating, people donating bombs and grenades. Nah,
Once again, everybody, thank you for watching my video.
people be donating. Like, I'm pretty sure people have accidentally donated like firearms, defense mechanisms like bear traps and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure people have donated a lot of crazy stuff over the years. As a med student, I've heard many times of doctors studying topics, refreshing their memory before surgeries. It's a massive body of knowledge after all, and as a science field, it has been growing at a fast pace. But for this reason, on an emergency scenario, to let a patient die while on labor, to me is unthinkable. My condolences to the family. Yeah, I get it's a lot of body of knowledge, but I think that certain people have there are certain fields in the medical field that you just stay on. Like if you do like knee surgery, if you're a knee surgeon, brain surgeon, you stay like typically in that type of like field. Like when like pregnancy, I believe it's a OYBMJ or OIBMJ that deals with like pregnancies and stuff like that, that deals with that specific scenario. Doesn't it happen so often that it's like second nature to do like the surgery or whatever is like second nature, so that way you're not forgetting nothing. Like you're constantly doing this, you're constantly like in your practice, like you're constantly doing it. It's like if like somebody was like a welder and they're like constantly welding, they wouldn't technically like forget how to weld per se, but they would like add new things to like their memory and like their arsenal and like new ways on how to weld and stuff like that. Wouldn't that be like the same for like the medical side? Like they would do like this surgery or this operation like pregnancy, which happens a lot. It is common, like every day a child is born. So like it would be like done so often that C-sections probably would be common, right? So that way you wouldn't forget it. But this is in another country though, so I probably maybe not common in their side, on their region though.
Now what you gonna to say when it all comes crashing down? Girl, you're gonna love me.
I love you, Chief Rizzo.
What you gonna do when all your love hits the ground? You're gonna love me.
Shit, they didn't care about me no more. I took a few steps away, found me somebody else. But I was there when you needed me. She know I play, I don't know if she seeing me. At least I'm tryna still ain't give up, yeah. My anxiety gone.